knowing going into the game you're that short-handed player-wise?
We don't really look at it that way. You know, the guys that are behind the starters or so, second string, third string, you know, we're all expected to play the same, you know, produce and stuff like that. That's what we really go by. We don't look at who's first, second, third. It wasn't a shock, you know. When it's time to step up, you gotta step up.
Did they do anything? I mean, obviously, we know they like to run the ball. Did they do anything you didn't expect?
No, they were just outright physical off the jump of the snap. Got out of leverage at times, whether it's in the front. Speaking specifically about the D-line, you know, they got out in front on some plays, out of leveraged us, played behind plays, and they gashed us for yards or throws, and you know, it just really was a bad game as far as playing with your keys.
It seemed like the second half, you were able to pick up the effort on defense. What changed for you guys in that half?
I think it is just coming into halftime and trying to remind each other that, you know, all we got is us. We need to play for us, play together, play as a team, brotherhood, all that stuff. Obviously, Coach AP making halftime adjustments, certain calls against certain formations that they're running, and just sticking to your keys and playing what Coach calls it.
What have you thought about the tendency to kind of have a quarter or a half go bad in some of these games and then play well other than that?
I don't think that deep about it. I play the one play and I keep moving on. I play the next play. I don't look at it. I don't look at my rearview mirror really. Only time I do that is on Sundays when we go over the film, try to correct what we need to correct for the next week coming up, and just making sure all those stuff is nice and tight.
From weather was a factor at all?
No.
AP said that he thought it was mostly gap fit stuff. I know as a D-line.
It was what?
Gap fit. I know as a D-line maybe you're not seeing some of that, but do you have any sort of perspective on that?
I mean, normally when you hear a call and you look at the formation that they're in, you can kind of visualize where you're supposed to be as a D-lineman. And as long as you can play with your leverage and play in that gap, and then you know the linebackers can fit where they need to fit, stuff like that, and then it just trickles on up to the DBs. Then it's a matter of if we're playing to the right leverage. Like I said, just continue to fight, seeing the play finish out.
Michelle may have asked, I'm not sure, but the injuries, when Shannon's out, Darian is out, you got like safety, how much is it tough to calibrate how much of a factor that has on a game like this?
It really doesn't. You know, guys behind them, they're expected to step up, and whether they'll be second string, third string, doesn't matter. Guys should be stepping up. You guys, they practice, we get the reps, we go over everything together. Coach coaches everybody the same. It's not the coach just coaches the starters and then the younger guys or whoever behind needs to listen and catch up. It's coaches everybody.
This team you guys tend to get off to slow starts. Is there any thing you can put your finger on why that seems to happen a lot?
No, I'm not sure. We go out there and we're playing. You know, our pads are on, our helmet is clicked on. We see the call, we run it, and we play it out.
First of all, man, thanks for taking time. I know it's frustrating as hell to talk after a loss. Is there anything that stands out about this loss as opposed to the others that's just bugged you a little bit differently?
I think personally for me, an assessment that I've made for myself is knowing that, you know, the stuff we go over in practice, when we watch film, you know, we mimic it in practice to see what it's going to look like in the game. And when we see it in the game, I'm not sure if it is us being surprised. I'm not sure if it's us thinking it's a different play or something like that. It's very frustrating at times, yeah. But you know, our coaching staff does a really great job on getting us prepared. Sometimes we might not look at it based on the score. May that be, you know, your opinion or so, but our coaches do a tremendous job getting us prepared, showing us what they need to show us, getting us ready. And you know, we go in the game with a lot of confidence. We really do. Offense, defense, special teams, we all do. And sometimes it might not play out in your favor, but you just got to keep playing on next play.
That the 11th game, you had 7 false start penalties. That makes it really hard. Can you just speak to some of the execution stuff out there?
Yeah, frustrating. It is. You know, the last 2 games, really, you know, the defenses have done a good job with their stem pre-snap, and we just haven't handled it up not easy when they're jumping and moving and all that stuff, and we're trying to use the silent cadence, you know? But at the end of the day, it's illegal for them to do that. They're not calling it, you know, so we've got to handle it. And, but yeah, frustrating, for sure.
Is it, do you think there's different things that you need to be doing to try to drill it into guys to not move, or?
We'll talk about it more as a staff and see if we can simulate it better in practice or find better ways.
The difficulties in the run game, is it something you can put your finger on? What wrong?
I'd have to look at it, but yeah, I mean, between the run game and the pass game, we couldn't get either going. You know, we just couldn't get into a rhythm, you know, and so, obviously, that, prevented us from scoring points, and then when we did get some opportunities to score points down in the red zone, we didn't. So, again, we gotta look at the film and we gotta execute better, you know, yeah, frustrating with both sides of it, you know, couldn't get into the run game we wanted to get into. And then at the end of the game, you know, you're behind so much that you've gotta throw it, and so you've gotta execute that stuff, and, so we weren't able to get the rushes, that we wanted to get, you know, early on in this game. Came down to them making plays and doing some things, and we did.
Your tight ends, just how much did that kind of handcuff you with what you could do tonight?
It always limits you a little bit. I mean, obviously, we were down two really good players, you know, with Curtis and Jalen, and guys that were, you know, factors in our offense, and big targets for Jaden, you know, as well. But we were in the same situation last year, you know, with Oregon State, and, you know, we lost some guys, and we had to fill in with Stivers and Hatch, and, you know, we expect them to do a good job too. You know, we want all our depth guys to be ready to go, and, you know, at the end of the day, you've got the personnel you've got, and then you've got to move forward with it.
7 false start penalties.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's been a running theme throughout the season, operational issues on offense. How much of a challenge was that put you in this game?
Well, I mean, anytime you go backwards offensively, you do it to yourself. It's amazing to me because last week, when you looked at Washington, they did the same thing. They were going to shift. And it wasn't really a factor. All of a sudden, we get here and it becomes a factor. And we practice against it, we talk about it, they know it, and for some reason, they still find a way to move. You can't move. You know, every time we got in the huddle, before the offense went out, I told them, I said, hey, they're going to do it. And when you're backed up, when you're coming out, they're gonna do it. On a big down, they're gonna do it. And we still move. So we went on silent count. You know, you can't move. That's bottom line. Just can't move. Can't flinch. They're gonna call.
From the car accident on Thursday, can you just comment on just that situation and how that kind of limited you guys going into tonight?
I don't know if it limited it that much. I mean, it's just, you know, we missed some players, but we've been missing players all season. So we don't use that as an excuse. I mean, we bogged down too many times offensively. When you looked at it, when you watched this play, we just, you know, they went on 2 15-play drives, I think, in the first half. And I want to say our first 2 or 3 possessions, we were 3 and outs. And you can't do that. You got to move the ball. You just have to move the ball. College football allows you to move the ball. We have to move the ball better than that. We can't bog down, you know, go 2 or 3 possessions and not move the ball. I mean, it's very difficult. And you go on the road and you play a team like this that can run the football, and get you in a bad way, keep the ball away from you. You have to move the ball when you have it offensive, because if not, they're taking clock away from you and possessions, and then you only have 3 or 4 possessions, and you have to punt. It makes it even worse, because you don't possess it enough times, right? So that's the kind of game that we got caught in. It's never good.
On that note of possession, you found 17 nothing. You guys put together a 7-minute drive, opt to go for a field goal on a 4th and 3. Was there any consideration for going for it?
Yeah, we thought about it, but at that point, I wanted to get some confidence back. Right? It was more about confidence for the football team. And if you don't make that's hard, because it's still, you know, we felt we would score away, so we're good. We're in a football game, and then they hit the big run on us. So I think that for me, it was, you know, maybe 4th and 1. Okay. but I knew that we needed points. You know, we had already missed 2 field goals in the first half, right? And so we needed some points, just to say we got some momentum back. And we got the momentum back, and actually we made a couple plays, got a punt, you know, blocked the punt and scored, and all of a sudden the game changes, and we're in the game again.
When you have offensive struggles and then you only get 3 points on 2 red zone trips, how much does that handcuff you guys?
It's hard, because you want to score. You gotta score the ball. You have to. You can't come. You can kick a field goal every once in a while, but I think when you're struggling too, there's this weight that you have. You know, do I go for it? And if you don't make it and don't get any points without you kicking a field goal, then it kind of deflates you, right? And the defense is hanging in there, and so you like to get some points on the board. And you know, we had to settle for a couple field goals. We missed one, was a long one, but the other one is generally, you should make that one. He's capable of making it.
Tom, is there anything you can put your finger on, this team gets off to a slow start again, just the repeated, it seems like every game you're playing from behind the 8 ball?
Yeah, and it's, as I said, you know, no consistency in our offense right now. And that's what you need some consistency. You know, we have to move the ball. You can't stall out. You can't go 3 or 4 plays and punt. You know, you just can't do that. And you're right. We gotta do a better job there. And then defensively, you know, our gap integrity on a couple of those runs hurt us too. And we talked about it all week. We talked about these guys are gonna run. You have to have the right gap responsibilities, and a couple times on a couple long ones on the one that the quarterback ran, which is, we're not in our gap. And he hit us on a run, you know, and that's the shame of it all. You know, these guys work that hard all week, and all it takes is one little mistake like that, and all of a sudden, the game changes.